All Indiana Politics is your premier source for Indiana politics, focusing on issues that matter to you.
I still want us to be the best in the Midwest.
We can't afford another lockdown.
Give the citizens of this country the relief they need.
Education in the state of Indiana remains priority number one.
In-depth, nonpartisan coverage.
We don't know exactly where the economy will be in January.
People are worried with good reason.
Exclusive interviews with Indiana's political leaders.
We have the resources here in the state of Indiana to care for those who are in need.
Expert analysis on critical legislation.
We need to reform those laws.
This recovery is going to take some time.
We've got to anticipate that there'll be a budget shortfall.
From Wish TV, this is All Indiana Politics Podcast on the All Indiana Podcast Network.
I'm Garrett Bergquist, government reporter for Wish TV. Governor Eric Holcomb is entering his final year in office. He's unable to run for another term due to term limits. The 2024 legislative session is not a budget session, but Holcomb says he still has ambitious plans. I sat down with him in his office at the statehouse to talk about his plans for the final legislative session of his term. We also discussed the controversies surrounding one of his biggest projects, the LEAP District. With us now is Governor Eric Holcomb. Governor, thanks for letting us come in today.
'Tis the season. Good to see you and to be with you.
So how does it feel going into your final session? Does it feel strange?
Sentimental in some respects, but this is a action-oriented job, so there's a lot to do on that to-do list, and that keeps us focused, and that's a good thing. But for sure, you know, when you kind of sit back and think, I'm writing my last State of the State address, or this is the second to the last scouting luncheon speech, or this will be the last time I go to fill in the blank. It becomes extra special, I guess you could say.
What can you tell us about your agenda for 2024?
Well, I can share some details in general. One, it will be about landing and launching. There's a number of projects that we have the resources and the tools to do and complete and build, but there's an awful lot of new to do. And I don't want anyone thinking this is going to be about a year of, you know, ribbon cuttings. This is a year of taking our state to the next level on three key fronts. One, economic development. Two, workforce development. And three, community development. And so landing certain projects for sure, launching new ideas, thinking about the future of certain sectors, mobility, life sciences, defense, you fill in the blank there as well. We're going to be leaning into that, hyperactive. And then I think we'll spend a lot of time making sure Hoosiers, citizens, taxpayers are aware of all the different programs and resources available to them. I get around the state quite often, and I come across certain walks who don't realize all that's there already, and maybe that others a county over are taking advantage of because it's there for them. And so I want to make sure folks don't just have access to what's available, but they have awareness before they choose to access them. And that will require effort, unlike we've seen before. And so I'm excited about sharing all about Indiana, all around Indiana.
House and Senate Republicans have said that they want to tackle reading proficiency and chronic absenteeism during the 2024 session. What solutions would you like to see from them on those issues?
Well, I can say this right now in December that January 8th we'll roll out our agenda, both our legislative asks and our administration and administrative positions that we'll take as well that won't require legislative action. And it will include making sure our third graders are on a path to reading proficiency. I think it's wrong to promote the problem and to say, well, we'll catch up later. That may be the case for some, but it can't be for the volume that we're seeing right now. And certainly absenteeism contributes, but it's not the sole cause of our low reading scores. And when I think about where we are with the math scores, 4th grade and 8th grade, much better. And so I am encouraged that with the commitment that the state made in this past session and some tweaks that we'll make in this upcoming session, that we are on a pathway to progress, improvement, simply by teaching the science of reading, taking that approach, where I learned through phonics, et cetera, I think will improve our scores, making sure our teachers are taught the science of reading when they're going through their schooling before their commitment to those students is in real life. And so I'm encouraged by that. I'm encouraged by the Imagination Library, where we've seen more counties participate, tens of thousands of more books on a monthly basis, making it into homes so parents can read to their children at home. So it's personalized, not just at school, but also at home. And it will require more parental, let's just be blunt and honest about this, it will require more parental responsibility and involvement to make sure those kiddos are getting to school.
This summer, CNBC ranked Indiana as the 7th worst state in which to live, and they particularly cited a lack of access to childcare. Should lawmakers in this session expand funding or eligibility for early childcare, or for that matter, pre-K?
Well, we just took some big steps in terms of providing childcare to working families, means tested. Our FSSA, that whole administration and agency, has programs for providers, for families that meet those requirements, those financial requirements, to receive assistance to get their kiddos into a learning environment, also known as childcare. But this is a place to really hone skills, high quality learning environments. In addition, we just this year, during the budget session, and we're rolling this out right now, are providing another program that organizes the corporate community to provide childcare, and the state is putting in more dollars into those scenarios as well, so that if you're in Warsaw or Vincennes or Jeffersonville, no matter what size the city or town, our business community, who knows the need as much as anyone, are faced with how do we get more workers into the workforce, even though we're higher than the national labor participation rate, even though we have a all-time high peak performance in terms of our private sector workforce right now, very historically low unemployment. Every willing and able body counts. And so we have to make sure we aren't just providing childcare for those businesses, but that we're also skilling up and reducing our recidivism rate, that we're becoming healthier as a citizenry, so that we can get to work. This is not a one program solves the whole problem, but childcare is something the state continues to lean into and put dollars. But folks need to understand, and I think they do, when you talk about the state providing more assistance, you're talking about taxpayers providing more to the state to then provide more for our state's children. And the state of Indiana has proven we're willing and able to do that as so long as our economy grows.
I want to turn to the LEAP district for a few minutes. Are you surprised by the extent of the opposition to that project?
No, because it's on a scale unlike we've seen before. And with that comes the good and the challenging. And that should be understood. I certainly do. There's growing pains that go along with unprecedented new ways of thinking and doing. And for a state like Indiana, who just celebrated our end of the year report from the IEDC in terms of new capital investment coming into the state, 28.7 billion, broke the 22.2 billion record last year, which broke the year before's record of 8.7. So we have serious positive momentum going. We're in a different league. We're punching way above our weight class. We're starting to get deals that would have gone to Arizona or Texas. We're developing on new frontiers, hydrogen, biotech, microelectronics. The new future of mobility is being ushered in right here in Indiana. That requires having sites that are conducive to those type of investments. And so while we have hundreds of ready sites in counties all over the state of Indiana, we need to have even bigger sites available. And that's what this LEAP district is. Now, having said that, the IEDC is wired or built to be aggressive, built to compete with fierce competition all over the world, certainly around our country, where billions are going to be determined to be allocated in the next 18, 24 months. So it's carpe diem. It is seize the day now and be ready before someone even, they're looking at your neighborhood to invest in. We know because of our tax and regulatory environment, we're very attractive. Now we need to have the sites and the workforce to go with it. And that's what this site is. The IFA, Indiana Finance Authority, will conduct the water study, and nothing will be done, just like in every other county or region, before we know where the sources of water is and the volume that will be needed projected out 50 years. And so there's a protocol to all of this. It's a regulated utility, so no one needs to fear waking up tomorrow and water, unbeknownst to them, as one drip or drop, is being diverted somewhere else. There will be a process in the LEAP district, just as there is in every other quadrant of our state.
Should local officials or local landowners, though, have been involved at an earlier stage or at a deeper level on this project?
Well, local landowners in LEAP, this is about property rights at a most basic level, and this wasn't eminent domain. This wasn't an action the state took that said we're taking property for the betterment of the whole state. This is landowners making a decision, like they do every day in every county of our state, with the state as a partner that's working on a different development project than maybe they were obviously prior. The same will be true going forward. We'll continue to work with landowners and the community's leadership, whether it be chambers of commerce or mayors or county commissioners, to make sure that we're, for sure, going forward, operating on the same page, and we've communicated that.
Going back to the water issue for just a second, a lot of landowners in that area are worried about this affecting their well water. We've already had a couple stories about people whose well water has declined in quality as a result of all this. What precautions are being taken to prevent something like that?
Well, we'll continue to, poke straws in potential water sources to see how much water is there for them and their neighbors. And I always say I pick up some national newspapers, publications, and look about the fight going on with water out west, 7 different states, Mexico, and how the Colorado River affects a whole different country because of the watershed. And so we have water, we have Lake Michigan, we have the Ohio River, we have aquifers, wells, etc. And I think we have an abundance of water. What we need to do, what the IFA needs to do going forward, and what we have done in the past, is cite those sources. And that will take working with these landowners for the foreseeable future, not just in that area, which we know going back years from a prior report that says this region will require more water. And this is a regulated utility. And so it will be operated as such.
What's one thing that you haven't gotten to yet that you really want to get done in this final year in office?
I think we haven't fully realized the true power and synergy of community development from a regional perspective. We are well on our way in terms of the READY program. We're about to introduce another $500 million state dollars into that equation, going out to different counties and regions of the state. But in terms of truly building quality of place and life programs, trails, outdoor activities, cultural amenities, this word is getting out now with that Ready Round 1. And the interest that I hear directly from statewide on a weekly basis from citizens and community leaders alike is unlike anything I've ever seen before. And that is something that when we kind of get over that hump, and I think Ready Round 2, along with some other programs that are working harmoniously with Ready Round 2, that's going to take us to truly the next level. But there's a lot of work to be done before we get there.
Do you plan to endorse anyone in the gubernatorial primary?
Haven't decided if that's an answer. Could. But I will say this, and I've said this before, I don't think we're living in the same time as we were 20, 30, 50 years ago where endorsements mattered. Quite frankly, I'm waiting for plans that are going to take Indiana to the next level or better Indiana from all the candidates so I can inspect them and say who would be best to implement such a course of action. And I think I just reflect what everyone else does, and that is, thanks, Eric, but I'll make up my own mind. And so we'll see. I don't want any of my involvement to for sure get in the way of the state legislative session. That's my job. Any of these collateral duties that one could argue need to wait to where we're clear and free of that. And then we'll see if it, A, would be helpful, and B, even make a difference. But I'll leave it to Hoosiers to be the discerning lot that they are.
How about the presidential race?
Same could be said. We'll see. I certainly want to make sure that I do the job I got to the best of my ability before I start worrying about other jobs. But I would say the same standard should be applied. Is how are we going to take this country to the next level? And this is a target-rich environment for improvement. When you think about the comparison between Indiana and our country in terms of debt and deficit spending, in terms of a broken, counterproductive immigration program or lack thereof, in terms of the entitlement programs that people pay lip service to, but they're cruising toward insolvency. These are those areas where we need results, not rhetoric. And that would be a huge assist to the state of Indiana and, by the way, our 49 competitors in this country.
Governor Eric Holcomb, thank you for letting us come in today.
Thank you. Good to be with you again.
That was Governor Eric Holcomb, who is entering his final year in office. Remember, you can catch All Indiana Politics every Sunday morning at 9:30, only on Wish TV. I'm Garrett Bergquist. Thanks for listening.
From Wish TV, this is All Indiana Politics Podcast on the All Indiana Podcast Network. Watch All Indiana Politics live Sunday mornings at 9:30 on Wish TV and at wishtv.com. Subscribe to this podcast and listen weekly here on the All Indiana Podcast Network. And be sure to discover even more great podcasts at allindianapodcastnetwork.com.